to be humble, to be kind. It is a giving of the peace in your mind, to a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is a thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. The danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibility, and heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
Okay, good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. My name is Melissa Rosales and I will be your worship associate today. And I haven't done this in a long time, so please bear with me if I make any mistakes. No matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred, we hope you will feel welcome among us here. Everyone is invited to stay after the service and make your way across the atrium for lunch and conversation. If there is something on your heart that you would like lifted up in our service, there is a memory book at the back of the sanctuary where you can write a joy or sorrow that will be read aloud. You are always welcome to just simply light a candle there for silent memory or prayer. For summer services, we don't have our typical programs for children and youth. Those will return in the fall. But kids are welcome to stay in the service, and childcare is always available. Our speaker this morning is Dr. Chris Schreiner, Minister Emeritus of Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Fremont. Chris earned a BA from the University of Redlands, a doctorate in religion from Claremont School of Theology, and an MS in family counseling from the University of La Verne. His honors thesis at Redlands examined the ethical thought of theologian Paul Tillich, and his dissertation at Claremont dealt with nuclear weapons policy. In addition to ministry, Chris was a psychotherapist for 25 years. He is the author of 6 books, including Bridging the God Gap, Finding Common Ground Among Believers, Atheists, and Agnostics. We welcome him here today. And now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening song, For the Earth Forever Turning, number 163 in the gray hymnal. The words will be on screen.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies, for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in the silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise of thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
Good morning. As we light our chalice to begin our service, we remind ourselves that our church occupies land in the Huchiun, which is the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. May we have the humility and courage to do our part to restore what has been broken and the wisdom to live in a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words by Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Now, would you join me in saying our covenant? Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose: to give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
This is reading number 648 in our gray hymnal, titled Beginners by Denise Levertov. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud. How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy, only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beast and flower, not as oppressors. Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent. Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended. Too much hurt we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in bud. Now let us join in a time of centering, a time of shared joy, gratitude, and grief. Reading from our memory book. From Beth, we pray for peace. May it be so. From Win, courage and support to live my life dream. And today we rejoice with Dorothy. Happy 89th birthday today. We have thoughts from Penelope for cherished Sonia on her journey. And with Natalie Campbell, it is with great joy that I welcome my mother, Edith, who has moved here from the East Coast. She is very excited to begin her new life in California, and I am so happy to be able to introduce her to everyone here at UUCB. And we're happy that she is here too. And we'll take just one moment for any other unshared joys, sorrows, hopes, and dreams. Amen, and blessed be.
A little while ago, we heard Melissa reading Denise Levertoff's anguished protest. But we have only begun to love the earth. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in bud. These words speak to us today because so much of the progress that Unitarian Universalists really cherish has been disintegrating. Last week's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity was an especially just jaw-dropping setback, giving the president king-like power. I wonder what George Washington would have thought of that. And we feel bad for this. We feel bad about this because of something good inside of us. It's because we care. We care about our country. We care about our world. Pain can be a sign of patriotism. And this caring also is an example of the love that Unitarian Universalists are trying to place at the center. Sometimes love hurts. One thing that helps me not abandon hope in times like this is to remember that the evil I'm seeing is only part of the picture. So much more is going on invisibly, unnoticed by the pundits and the professors and the preachers. Listen to what Marge Piercy says about what is happening underground. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot always tell by looking what is happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil beneath your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness from the outside, but to us, interconnected with rabbit runs and layers. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we will live for a long time. Not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. So, it may seem as if evil is triumphant, but in so many cases we have been amazed by unexpected progress. We almost never know enough to justify despair. Hold open the hope that sadness and anger will rebound into positive action. Now please remain seated to join our song of meditation. This is my song. Words will appear on the screen.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands of far and wide. This is my home, my country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clovers, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for them and for mine.
Well, good morning again. I really want to thank all of the people who've made this service possible. I hope everybody here realizes how much work and how much fine detail goes into preparing these services. I was especially aware of Melissa's work and Karen's, who did the slides. But I'm sure there's a lot going on that I didn't know about. But I know those two people put in hours and hours, so I thank them. So this sermon deals with some serious matters, and whenever I preach about a serious topic, I try to bring a kind of spirit of lightness to approach the topic. I think it makes it easier if there's a little bit of lightness, maybe some humor and so on, but it really has been a little hard to imagine being light and easy in the pulpit during the last couple of weeks. I mean, we've had one series of supreme disasters after another, among other things going on. So I don't know if a spirit of lightness is going to descend upon us today. It would be nice if it does, but we'll see. But regardless, I want to step back from our current crises and look at more of the big picture and underlying causes, starting with a myth about our condition that has hugely influenced our culture. I'm sure you know I'm talking about the myth of Eden. The creation story in Genesis says human beings were intended to dwell happily in the Garden of Eden, but we were driven out of paradise because we rebelled against God's perfect plan. The Middle Eastern religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all agree we were created from a perfect plan. In the book of Genesis, every time God adds something new to the universe, we read, "And God saw that it was good." We don't read, "And God saw that it would do for now," but would soon deteriorate into endless warfare and relentless oppression. So what do you think? Is human nature designed after a divine blueprint? Or did we just evolve without being planned in advance? It's fine with me, whatever your opinion is about that, but what I want to consider this morning is the possibility that human nature seems as if, appears to be, evolved without a perfect plan, maybe with no plan at all. If we were created perfect, any imperfection reflects rather badly on us, doesn't it? It means we've fallen short. And we do fall short of our ideals all the time, and Middle Eastern religions explain those failings by focusing on our great sinfulness. In fact, many Christian theologians say that every one of us has been tainted by sin in one way or another, in so much that we deserve to be horribly tortured in hell for all eternity. That's a little harsh, I think, but if you invented a machine and built billions of copies of this device, and every one of them deserved so badly that you said, well, I guess I better junk this one, would you claim your design was perfect and every one of them just happened to fail? Traditional religions, the traditional theologians, deal with this question by saying, well, you know, part of God's perfect plan was to give us free will. And sometimes we use our freedom foolishly. But again, if every one of billions of humans commits sins worthy of damnation, it doesn't seem like we all just happened to use our free will atrociously. It looks like we all suffer from basic design defects, or weren't designed at all. If people in biblical times had understood the evolutionary journey, they would have realized that every creature has been evolved to fit some specific situation. Notice, this means that the idea of a perfectly designed organism is nonsense. It doesn't make sense at all. Perfectly designed for what context? Could a gazelle survive by living underwater? Could a starfish survive in the Sahara? We humans were very, very well suited for living in small bands of hunter-gatherers in the wilderness. When food was plentiful, this was a sort of Eden. Our fall from this natural state of grace occurred when we became so successful that we multiplied and multiplied, larger societies, more complexity, and then started building cities. So we didn't get kicked out of Eden because we were naughty. It was just the opposite. We did so well in our prehistoric Eden that we graduated. We outgrew the place. But what promotes survival in a tiny village can be disastrous in a multi-billion person planet. Our human accomplishments transformed the human world, but human nature is still fitted to the old world we lost. Some of the very same qualities that enabled us to thrive and multiply began to get us into trouble. Humanity became plagued by injustice, materialism, racism, male dominance, economic inequality, large-scale warfare, slavery, pollution, and now we've got deepfake videos. These evils did not develop because we suddenly became bad, but because human accomplishments transformed the human world. So I want to consider three crucial mismatches between human nature and the new world in which we live. And the first of these is that we are easily confused by complexity. Our brains were programmed to help us eat and avoid being eaten, out in the forest primeval. So we're well suited for handling one simple short-term crisis at a time. Let's see, who's going to have dinner, me or that? Unfortunately, we can easily become overwhelmed then when we have several alternatives. You ever found yourself dazed and confused while walking through a shopping mall? Or think about the complexity of information technology, all the complexities we have to deal with in dealing with our devices. And don't you love the informative errors messages that we get from computers? An ActiveX control on this page might be unsafe to interact with other parts of the page. Do you want to allow this interaction? Well, golly, I just don't know. In keeping up with current events, many of us are overwhelmed by complexity, sound bites, breaking news, the updates at 11. We want to shut it out sometimes, maybe, make the complicated world go away. I'm reminded of a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon in which Calvin complained about dealing with unpleasant realities. So as the strip opens, he and Hobbes are just tearing along a steep downhill path through the woods in a little red wagon that seems jet-propelled. Calvin says, "It's true, Hobbes, ignorance is bliss. Once you know things, you start seeing problems everywhere. And fixing problems always seems to require personal change. And change means doing things that aren't fun. But if you're willfully stupid, you don't know any better. So you can keep doing whatever you like. The secret to happiness is short-term, stupid self-interest." Hobbes, "We're heading for that cliff." Calvin, "I don't want to know about it." Calvin and Hobbes, blam. Hobbes, "I'm not sure I can stand so much bliss." Calvin, "Careful, we don't want to learn anything from this." Whenever our biological programming clashes with the demands of the modern world, we need to do something specific to correct our course. So often our brains are trying to carry us in a direction that is destructive. It's telling us, for example, to turn off the news because it's confusing and depressing, and in our blissful ignorance, we plunge over a cliff. A lot of voters follow the news very superficially and consistently vote against their own interests and against the well-being of their grandchildren. They've gone over a cliff, and they don't even know it. One specific way to avoid information overload is meditation. If we calm our minds once or twice a day, mental clutter falls away. It's like erasing a chalkboard to open up space for new data. Unfortunately, because the brain is crisis-oriented, whatever seems urgent grabs our attention. So when people try to meditate, their thoughts keep pulling them back to whatever drama they are dealing with currently. We could use meditation to correct our tendencies to bounce off the walls, overloaded with stimulation. But our minds rebel against our efforts to correct the way our minds operate. As I mentioned the things we could do to correct our course, notice that most of these strategies are not dramatic or exciting. They're more likely to provoke a yawn than a gasp. I didn't really expect anybody to shout, "Amen, brother," when I recommended meditation. So one mismatch between our animal heritage and modern life is that our brains are oriented toward handling one issue at a time, and we're overwhelmed by the complicated world we've created. There are specific things we could do to transform our inborn nature, few of which are particularly exciting. A second relic of our animal heritage is the way we limit the range of our love. We show concern for ourselves, for our families, for the various tribes with which we identify, and often that's about it. So if God designed us to be universally loving, looks like we're rebelling against the divine plan, doesn't it? But what if evolution shaped us to sacrifice heroically for our own people while ignoring or attacking others? What if tribes that cared for their own and were hostile to outsiders were also the tribes that won wars and took over territory? Could that be possibly related to the tribalistic polarization we see in America today? Hostility toward outsiders is also reinforced by another factor, and I realized the importance of this factor one day while I was reading about dominance hierarchies in monkeys. I suddenly saw that an astonishing amount of human behavior is shaped by our love of dominance. So we are so concerned about who wins and who loses, who's right and who's wrong, who's good and who's bad. The hierarchical concerns. Have you noticed that people sometimes argue about problems that could be easily settled without acrimony? Maybe sometimes they do that because they need the argument to jockey for position on the ladder of domination. Unfortunately, we see now people's need for domination leading them to support hostile and aggressive political leaders. Many spiritual teachers have urged us to stop dominating each other and just open our hearts to love. And what's a practical, straightforward thing we can do with that? One thing would be to start in this congregation, our congregation, for you folks. Stretch beyond the tendency to ignore or attack outsiders here. Learning to extend kindness to people who seem different in one way or another. This congregation can serve as a living laboratory of unity in diversity, a place to reach across the tribal lines that each of us draws in our minds. Now, something a little different. Sometimes when I'm preaching, I like to pause the sermon for a time of meditation, reflection, prayer, and then complete my talk after that. So, I'm going to invite you now to go ahead and make yourself comfortable in your seat. Close your eyes or look down so you're kind of within your own little world. And take a few deep breaths, allowing your body to relax. So look back at what you've experienced so far this morning. The music, the readings, the sermon, and everything else. What has spoken to you? What has puzzled you, inspired you, challenged you, surprised you? I've been saying we need to rise above our nature. Are you wrestling with very human tendencies within yourself? Are you finding skillful ways to correct your course, as all of humanity needs to correct its course? How can you use this congregation as your laboratory, where you learn more satisfying ways of living? Now take a few deep breaths and open your eyes when you're ready. So now going back to the sermon. I've suggested that we were evolved to cope with one problem at a time and to be deeply caring, but only for members of our tribe. And I want to mention one more way our animal heritage gets us into trouble. Because of our crisis orientation, we generally ignore problems that develop slowly. Here is a metaphor that's often used to describe our predicament. If a frog is dunked into hot water, it will hop right out. But if the water is getting warmer gradually, the poor creature will allow itself to be cooked. And we humans would sit right there in the pot chatting with the frog about global warming. It's literally getting too darn hot with climate change, and all sorts of problems are heating up so slowly we mostly ignore them. Unfortunately, some politicians make this tendency worse by urging people to follow Calvin's advice and be willfully stupid. Don't pay attention to those scientists. They don't know anything. The news media don't pay nearly as much attention to long-term issues as they pay to childish squabbles of politicians. But that's not because media executives are sinful. It's our evolutionary heritage. Those who run the news media have the same brains we do, and they're responding to the same neurological biases, and they're responding to consumer demand. To get the public's attention, they focus on the latest soap operas rather than on complicated crises and solutions. And this can be true even of progressive media. Were you and I programmed to be fascinated by long-term problems? No, just the opposite. We were evolved so as to ignore issues that change very slowly, such as change in climate, because we couldn't do anything about them. Basically, we just had to move if it got too cold or too warm. That's all. Focusing on such big concerns that we couldn't do anything about would have distracted us from things we could respond to, such as the faint rustle of leaves down where we were about to place a bare foot. But our old behaviors don't fit our new world. We are torn between who we are and who we want to be. We want to show vision and foresight, but we react simplistically to dramatic spectacles. In psychotherapy, people often discover that the behaviors that get them into trouble as grown-ups are the same ones that enable them to survive and thrive in a stressful childhood. The same for humanity. We act in ways that worked with unprecedented success 10,000 years ago, and that work pitifully today. We are getting into trouble by following and being faithful to ancient biological imperatives. This is important. We are not evil or stupid. We are perilously successful. You and I are the graduates of Eden, refugees from a world that disappeared because we so dominated our prehistoric domain that we fabricated a new world, and in this new world we are flopping around with like fish out of water. But we're pretty smart fish. Many of us are trying to transcend human nature, correcting the mismatch between biological programming and today's challenges. This will require many concrete actions and lots of listening to voices of wisdom and inspiration that you can find here in this congregation, calling us to a path toward sanity. The ancient prophets were right in challenging us to live up to a higher calling, but they were wrong in saddling us with guilt and self-contempt. Churches that tell people to stop being sinful and love everybody, that's all you need to do, they have the wrong diagnosis of the problem and the wrong medicine to cure it. We don't need more noble New Year's resolutions, and we don't need more shame for falling short of our ideals. We do need to take ourselves back to school and learn to correct our course. School isn't always exciting, but the school of hard knocks may teach us to become absolutely entranced by plain old practical strategies that used to put us to sleep. Better not stay asleep much longer. It is indeed getting awfully warm in this water.
We invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. It's time for the offering. Instead of passing a plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put a cash or check donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it in the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of our offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our wonderful Social Justice Council. The Good Neighbor for this month is Safe Return Project. This is their mission. We are invested in building a base of power at the civic, social, and economic levels of formerly incarcerated persons across the state of California, addressing the root causes of poverty and the impact that the criminal justice system has had on Black people and communities of color. Please welcome Safe Return Project's Program Manager, Shayla Bonner, to tell us more.
Good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to be here today. I'm actually filling in for Aday. I'm not sure if any of you know Aday. She was one of our organizers who actually passed away last month, so I'm filling in for her. But I want to tell you all about Safe Return Project. As Melissa stated, we are a community organization who advocates for formerly incarcerated folks, those who are returning home, and those who are dealing with, poverty, homelessness, any challenges, racial bias, all those things. So I just wanted to tell you all about our programs today, and just a little bit about myself. My name is Shayla Bonner, and I'm the program manager with Safe Return. I've been with Safe Return for a little over 6 years now. I started off as an organizer. I'm actually actively in the role of interim ED, as our ED is on a 3.5-month sabbatical. So proud of her and all the work that she does. And so our programs that we have, we really center our work around leadership development and advocacy work. So we do have our Richard Boyd Fellowship. Most of the folks in this photo here is from our fellowship. And it's a program empowering leaders who will advocate and speak truth to power, analyze and put together data to tell the story of truth, and light the path for others to follow in their footsteps as they boldly lead us to a new future and way of living. Our fellowship program is a 12-month paid internship program where we focus the first 6 months on just recognizing the risk factors to help people not to recidivate and to stay alive and free. And then the last 6 months, they actually get into shadowing organizers and becoming organizers of our organization. Then we have our Collective Impact Fellowship, which is a 15-week course in which we foster leadership among adults and youth whom the criminal legal system has directly impacted. It is committed to investing in the personal transformation of all formerly incarcerated individuals working to build their lives in Richmond and Contra Costa County. Next, we do have our Credible Messenger program. It's one of our mentorship programs. We do have a lot of young folks who come through our program. Right now, we're about 25 young people strong. And this program is basically a support system for our youth who are impacted by criminalization, recognizing the profound transformation and impact that occurs when community members invest in and prioritize the well-being of young people. And then the last 2 programs that we offer at Safe Return is our Sister Circle support group, where we provide tailored assistance for women and gender nonconforming individuals to encompass on life coach, somatic work for trauma and healing. We offer career coaching, individual and group conflict resolution strategies, mentoring, and trauma-informed counseling. And then we have our Latinx support group, which is all-inclusive. We do not leave anyone out. And it's a support group for all ages from 14 and up from Contra Costa County, and it focuses on cultural humility, resilience, life skills, holistic healing circles, brain spotting, violence prevention and intervention, personal ecology, professional and personal development, and then we also have, of course, our mentoring and addressing recidivism. That is our program. I did leave some information with Natalie, and I do have business cards, and I'll leave that with you as well. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Shayla. Thank you, Shayla, for sharing all the important work that Safe Return Project is doing. And thank all of you so much for practicing generosity with UUCB and with our good neighbors. Katia. Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. It's been good to be together today. I want to remind you to check out our website, uucb.org, to explore all the things that are available in our congregation. We have so much going on. On the home page, you'll see news, and you can find a link to our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. I have 4 important announcements for you today. So this next week, starting tomorrow, July 8th through 12th, is Staff Unplugged Week. UUCB staff will be unavailable to the congregation and the public. So hold your emails and phone calls, and all those will be returned starting July 15th. Next Sunday, July 14th at 1:30 p.m. is The Year to Save the Earth, a musical and multimedia experience by Jim Scott. Mixing powerful songs and beautiful projected images, The Year to Save the Earth takes us from grieving to celebration, from protest to positive vision for the planet. Suggested donation is $20 to $25, but no one will be turned away for lack of funds. Also next Sunday will be the Transylvanian Art and Embroidery Sale. For sale in the atrium will be embroidery and hand-painted woodcraft from craftswomen in the village of our partner church. Most of the designs on both embroidery and painted wood are floral, reflecting the native plants and flowers in the village's area of Transylvania. All the proceeds from the sale will benefit the people of Homer Road, Uifalu, including our village education fund that assists young people to attend high school and university or trade schools. And for a sneak peek today, I heard that Anne Greenwood's famous blackberry jam will be for sale, and those proceeds will benefit our partner church as well. So check that out. And finally, after the service today, Dr. Chris will sign copies of his books in the social hall, so visit him there. These books include Bridging the God Gap, Finding Common Ground Among Believers, Atheists, and Agnostics, and Do Think Twice, Provocative Reflections on Age-Old Questions. Now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing song, Love Will Guide Us, 131 in the gray hymnal. The words will be on screen.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from grief to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from grief to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
And I understand that during the closing words, you're invited to take a hand or touch an elbow or whatever you're comfortable with, make some kind of energetic connection. And the closing words I'd like to share are from Project Plowshares. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace, Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Blessings to you all. Amen.